The question every dungeon master loathes to hear. A player asks, why would my character go along with the party? This has nothing to do with me. Which the question I really hear in that is, why did I make a character that has no interest in playing this campaign? But people don't like that, so I do my best to patch it up. Let's say that in this game world, nobles hold a crazy party every 20 years where it's an extravagant display of wealth, and the players are tasked with stopping the theft of a magical ruby. Character A is an urchin whose older brother was executed by nobles. Character B is a noble whose parents are overprotective to the point of hostility, and Character C was cursed after a case of mistaken identity. Odds are, just because of how players work, none of these characters were made with one another in mind. The easiest way to connect them all is to just make them all together. Fate has a really great system for this that you can rip off and stick in whatever RPG you want. However, I'm making this video under the assumption that you didn't make all of your characters together. The way I use is to look at the characters in each backstory and see where they could overlap. The simplest and most obvious connection usually being the best one. For instance, we can say that Character A's older brother was executed by Character B's parents. Character C's curse is a result of the actions of Character A's deceased older brother. You can already see how these narrative ties are going to bind the characters together in a dramatic and engaging way. We can round it out and tie it to the campaign by saying that Character A's brother was trying to steal the mythical ruby. Character B's parents can then be our secret baddies, plotting to take the ruby for themselves. And Character A was set up by Character B's parents. If you can't find any commonalities between character backstories, the best course of action is to ask the players questions. Who did that to you? Where did this take place? Why didn't X happen instead? Write down all the nouns and verbs that you get in your answers and try to see how many of those could be referring to the same people, place, things, or events. Pretty soon, you'll have everything you need to tie all the characters and your world together. Whether or not those connections are something you want the players to be aware of is up to you. I like letting people know in advance. Just make sure that you're giving them a reason to work together and not setting them up to face off against one another. A good way is to make sure that the person responsible for all these misunderstandings and misfortunes will be uncovered by the end of the adventure. Mike Shea of Flourish has another way to simplify these connections with a single question. How do all of you know this NPC? Usually referring to the quest giver or someone who is the focus of the adventure, whether they've been kidnapped, killed, or undergone some crazy change. In the case of the scenario from before, you'd ask, how do you know this person who's hiring you to do this thing? And why did you say yes? If you want to hear more about that, Mike Shea and I were both on a recent episode of the Dungeons and Degrees podcast with Alex and Adrian, which should be out the same day this video is posted. I'll include a link in the description. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything also presents the option in the form of group patrons. Speaking of patrons, thank you, my Patreon supporters. A special shout out to my two newest patrons, Robert A. and Raspilicious. You both contributed directly to some software that's helping me interview two really stellar guests for upcoming videos. My patrons will have access to a worksheet to track these connections the ADHDM way at patreon.com/ADHDM. If you found this helpful, subscribing to my YouTube channel will keep you updated on all the methods I use to balance ADHD and D&D. That's all for now. Until next time, thank you very much for watching.